Hare Apparent is one of the most hyped cards from Foundations in MTG Pauper, since you can run any number on your deck. I decided to use it on a pseudo reanimator shell, with other cards like Dread Return and Exhume, along with powerful reanimator targets like Troll of Khazad-dûm and Eagles of the North, the latter acting as a pseudo goblin bushwhacker with enough tokens on the board. Of course, Deadly Dispute is a must-have on any black deck, but the most significant addition is to use Echoing Return to bring back multiple creatures with the same name to your hand for just 1 mana in a deck ready to hunt the meta. The first match will be against Mono Red Synthesizer, keeping a good hand on game 1. Drawing the Troll of Khazad-dûm is insane with Exhume in hand, but for now I will play my first Hare Apparent and pass. However, the opponent used Chain Lightning to kill it, but on my turn I looted away my Troll for land and used Exhume to bring back the Troll on turn 3, threatening a quick clock on them. They untap and played a Kessig Flamebreather and shot a lightning bolt to my face. On my turn, I cycled another Troll for a tapped land, played the Apparent and attacked for 6. They used Wren's Resolve to exile 2 lands, played a Vampire Epicure and passed. I played 2 more Hare Apparent before attacking, but the opponent had enough and scooped. I forgot to bring a good sideboard against red for game 2, so 2 Prismatic Strands would have to do. The opponent starts with a turn 1 Percussionist, and it wasn't until turn 2 that I could play a Wabbit. They untapped, and after casting Wren's Resolve, they attacked, and I took 2 free damage. I cycled a Troll, playing the second Apparent, and they used End the Festivities to shrink my board. Now, I decided to trade against the Tomb Rider, and the other Wabbit eventually got killed. I cycled a Troll for a tap land and played a Bunny before passing. After casting an Impulse, the opponent played 2 Percussionists and attacked, and I decided to block 1, as they revealed a mountain. I untapped, played 2 more Apparents, and on their turn, the opponent scooped. For match 2, we now face Dimir Faeries on the draw. At the end of my second turn, the opponent played a Spell Stud or Sprite and attacked, suggesting they had a ninja, but decided not to reveal it yet. Instead, they countered my first Apparent, and on their next turn, returned the Fairy to hand, dealt 2 damage, and drew a card. Post-combat, they played a couple of Fairies here before passing. Since I drew a land, I decided to play another Apparent, and use Exhume on my Eagles of the North to stop the damage in the air. Opponent untapped, played a Mystic, and passed. I played back-to-back Apparents and did the same, so the opponent untapped, passed again, and back on my turn, I attacked with all my non-token creatures, reducing them to 13. Post-combat, they countered one of the Wabbits, but a second one joined the board, adding 3 more tokens. They then used a Lorien Reveal to draw 3 cards, create a token of their own, and pass. On my turn, I played another Apparent before attacking to create more tokens, and I attacked, putting them to 2. They played a land without any play, and on my turn, I just attacked with everything, and they conceded. As far as sideboarding goes, I like to ditch the graveyard approach due to the hate that players add post-combat, and I decided to bring a couple of Duress and Prismatic Strands to stop the Ninjas and Arms of Hadar as a way to clean the board. On my turn 2, I played a Wabbit and decided to wait a turn to play a second, so they could only counter 1 since they were limited with mana. However, they decided to tap out and played a Ninja instead, and a Snuff Out took out the Apparent. I then untapped and played back-to-back Apparents, adding a token to the board. They just passed back the turn, and I played another Wabbit that was ultimately countered. A second one joined the board, and I attacked with the rest. The opponent then untapped, played a land, and resolved a Gurmag Angler for the turn. That said, I had enough mana to play an Eagles of the North, and attacked for a bunch for the turn and put them down to 3. After playing a Preordain, the opponent scooped. For match 3, we will face Dimir Ninjas. They start with the Mighty Ornithopter on turn 1, followed by a Ninja on turn 2. Of course, I played an Apparent and attacked, putting them down to 18. They untapped and attacked with the Ornithopter again, adding another Ninja to the board, a land, and a Sneaky Snacker ready to trade. I cycled an Eagles of the North and decided to use Exhume on it to block her in the air, while doing more damage on the ground, bringing them down to 10. An Agony Warp took down my Eagle on their turn, and they drew a lot of cards with their Ninjas, giving them more options to play. I decided to use Echoing Return on my Eagles to get another Plains, and added another Apparent before attacking with the others, putting them down to 8. They then played a Familiar, and I decided to discard the second return instead of my Apparent. They passed the turn, and on mine, I added another Wabbit and another one right after they killed one with a Snuff Out. On their turn, they played a Familiar, drew a card, and a Deadly Dispute found a Blood Fountain, and it was all for them for the turn. Doing a quick math, I think I can kill them, but an Exhume returning the Eagles of the North sealed the deal, moving us to game number 2. Since this is a pseudo affinity deck, it makes sense to add in 4 Dust to Dust post sideboards while also adding Arms of Hadar that are extremely good against a deck that seems to not run any counters. They played a turn 1 creature and followed up with a familiar, forcing me to discard and exhume. I played an Apparent on turn 2 and passed. The opponent attacked and I played another Apparent, added a token, and passed. On their turn, they attacked once more and passed. So I cycled a Troll for a tapped land, played a pre-combat Apparent, and attacked with the others, reducing them to 14. They didn't attack this turn, which was weird at first, but I immediately killed their board with arms and attacked. As it turns out, they had their own board wipe to kill my tokens. So I just did 3 damage this turn and passed. I attacked for 6, put them down to 5, and post-combat another Wabbit was cast, but 2 sprites denied that. Still, a second one joined the board along with 3 tokens, and this was enough for my opponent to scoop, winning our 3rd match of the league. The next match is a tough one against Grixis Affinity, but we will start strong with a turn 2 Troll of Khazad-dûm, thanks to Exhume to apply early pressure. They played a Mir Enforcer and added 2 more artifacts before passing. So back on my turn, I attacked, played my first Apparent, and passed. They drew 4 more cards, thanks to back-to-back Thoughtcast and attacked, putting us down to 16. I played an Apparent, and in response they used a blast to get rid of the one already on the field. So I cast Deadly Dispute to draw 2 more cards, and again, I attacked for 6. On their turn, they cast a Refurbished Familiar, and I discarded a Swamp. Then, they followed with a Kenku Artificer, creating an indestructible flying creature, and decided to stay back instead of attacking. Because of this, I decided to pull the trigger and hardcast an Eagles of the North, to give first strike to my troll and force them to take the damage or lose most of their burn, and they decided to go to 1 instead. This little window was not ideal, as I could have played the second troll instead, aiming for a better attack next turn. They somehow managed to survive by sacrificing their Enforcer after I attacked, and while I added another Apparent to the board, they eventually found a Krark-Clan Shaman to wipe the board. From here, I could not reveal in time, and after they killed my only blocker in the air, they finally won game 1. Post-sideboard, I learned to add 2 Duress, the Revoke Existence, and of course all Dust to Dust from the side. This hand, while not great, has a lot of Wabbits in it, so we keep. I played a turn 2 Apparent, and a Duress revealed some spot removal cards and Toxin Analysis. A Familiar forced me to discard an Apparent, and before I cast a second one, they killed one that was in play. Another one died by trading with the Familiar, but it was all part of the plan as I used Echoing Return to bring back all 3 Wabbits to my hand for just 1 mana, just as I planned. The opponent then played a Mir Enforcer, and killed the last Apparent with Galvanic Blast before I could resolve the other one. They played a land and passed, so on my turn, I played back-to-back Apparents and passed as well. They drew 2 more cards and 7 lives with a bargain, and looted away land. They returned the Enforcer and the Familiar to hand, and replayed the latter to make me discard the Exhume I had. Before attacking, I played the other Apparent, and swung with the team, putting them down to 13. They played the Enforcer, so back on my turn, I attacked everyone. They blocked with the Enforcer, so used Dispute to draw cards from an Apparent. Still, they used back-to-back removal, and after the dust was settled, they were down to 5. I then played the Apparent, and after they played a Wellspring, they scooped. Since this hand has a Dust to Dust, I decided to close my eyes and keep. Of course, they killed my first Apparent, and made me discard another with the Familiar. Still, I used a Duress before the Dust to Dust, and in response they used Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the Familiar. I got rid of their second Dispute, and while 2 Shamans will be hard to battle, it won't be impossible to beat without the card draw. They untapped and killed my Apparent with a Blast while playing an Enforcer. So I decided to get rid of the latter and the red source to limit the ways they can play their Shamans in the long run. They played a tapped Breach, and I followed with an Apparent and passed. As expected, they played the Shaman, so I played an Apparent and attacked for 2 for the turn. Next turn, I attacked for 5, putting them down to 13 and post-combat. Used a Deadly Dispute, sacrificed an Apparent, and utilized the return to bring back 4 more Apparents from my graveyard to my hand. In response, they used removal to kill 1 Wabbit. Eventually, they were forced to clear the board for the first time, so I used Deadly Dispute to draw cards. Finding a Dust to Dust is big, as now I can get rid of both red sources, so I immediately did, and also played 2 more Apparents for the turn. Unable to find another red source, they passed, and I attacked for 5. Playing the Troll post-combat really sealed the deal, and they scooped. While unbelievable, I am already 4-0 so far. If you think I can go 5-0 on this league, leave a comment with the word Wabbit below. With high hopes in my deck, we go to match number 5. Again, Affinity is on our way, So I start with a turn 2, Apparent followed by a turn 3-1. Still, I missed cycling my Eagle to play 2 more Apparents and set up a big attack next turn. However, this was written off the script as a Shaman, joined the board, and killed my entire board. I tried reanimating creatures to use my mana effectively, but I eventually got overrun by the Enforcer and an indestructible land, so we moved to game number 2. Again, the sideboard plan I used earlier was good, but decided to drop the reanimation entirely and added 2 Nihil spellbombs to stop the graveyard recursion. Still, the game will be decided by whether I can find a Dust to Dust or not. After getting rid of their bargain, playing an Apparent and getting it killed, I got rid of both their lands with the Dust to Dust. Opponent found another land, so I looted away my Eagles for a plane and added an Apparent. Since they still have the negate, I played the second Apparent instead and attacked for 2. They used Thoughtcast to draw 2 more cards, meaning they got tapped out, so I shot again a Dust to Dust and left them with only black mana while applying pressure on the ground. Still, they found a red source, meaning a Shaman in our future very soon, so I prevented myself from adding more creatures to the board and put them down to 8. Note up that until this point, I noticed I missed some Mirkwood Bats in the 75 that were initially in the first drafts, but sadly, I forgot to add them to this. Back into the game, they played the Shaman and waited until I attacked to clear the board. After the board was cleared, I added 2 back-to-back Wabbits and passed. They killed one with a blast, and on my turn, I used Duress, getting rid of their bargain, and put them down to 5. I sacrificed a land and found 2 more bunnies, so I played one to apply more pressure. After playing their spring, they scooped and we went to the final game. As much as I want to say I won the league, the reality is that I kept a very greedy hand with triple Dust to Dust with no planes. And while I eventually drew the lands, I was way behind and lost the trophy in this Pauper League.